Welcome to Silly Monkeys. A few people asked me why did I call it Silly Monkeys, and the truth is it tests much better with kids at school, so Silly Monkey sounds a lot more fun. If you could just indulge me for 15 minutes, I just wanted to really share why I'm so passionate about financial education, and kind of candidly, if I reached the point where I didn't have to work, I'd probably spend all my time doing this. But I wanted to just say why I think financial education is so important, why I wrote Save Your Acorns, and why Silly Monkeys. And at the end, you can get a copy for a small donation to Red Start, our charity. And so most of you know that my day job is working in pensions and crucially final salary pensions, and they're fantastic, and they have been fantastic. And for those of us who are fortunate to be in them, I'm not one of them, it's a great thing. But unfortunately, that's not the case. This was from The Economist, literally 1st of December, but more than half of babies born today in Japan can expect to live to 100. So, life expectancy is increasing, which is wonderful, wonderful news. But we haven't really thought through what it means to finance that future. And the systems that we have in place aren't fit for purpose. The other thing that's changed is that over the last 60 or 70 years, the financial decisions we have to make day to day have changed. So back in the 1950s, financial decision making was pretty simple. We got paid in cash, normally a weekly pay packet. We had the state pension. We had interest from savings. The culture of Black Friday and Cyber Monday definitely didn't exist. And saving probably just involved opening an account at the post office. Fast forward today, we don't get paid in cash. I think last year more transactions were done digitally or contactless or basically not with cash than ever before. And so the use of cash is going. We have the state pension, we have our personal pension. We want to borrow our house. Sorry, we want to borrow to buy a house. We have credit cards. We have store cards. Many of us might actually have our iPhones or smartphones on some kind of contract-based hire. Where we choose to spend our money, we're being bombarded with advertising to make us want to spend. And the proliferation of products and providers is huge. And it's no wonder people are left feeling confused and anxious about making financial decisions. And so the easy thing is to put our head in the sand. And if you're a young person graduating for school or university today, you've got a whole load of decisions to make about where to spend your money, where to invest your money, and what you need to do. But unlike those of you who got here today on the tube, there is no tube map on what to do on those decisions. There's no one guiding you. This is where you are. And this is what you might need to think about in terms of financing your future. The consequences of this is pretty profound. So this is a chart that Mercer did for the World Economic Forum last year. And what they did is they tried to look at global savings provision around the world. So this is looking at what's called defined contribution savings. And they estimated that by 2050, if we didn't change anything, so based on current contribution rates, based on current levels of financial literacy, based on current levels of engagement, the savings gap in 2050 would be $33 trillion. That's about 25 trillion pounds. That makes the whole defined benefit thing that some of us in this room worry about and think about a big, big deal. And look, this is like climate change, right? It's in 2050, who cares? It's a big number, it's not my problem, so someone else will figure it out. But the reality is there aren't that many people trying to figure out what to do to address this problem. So the World Economic Forum have identified a whole load of reasons why this might be the case. Of course, increasing life expectancies, we know that. Lack of easy access to pensions. Has anyone actually tried to open a pension not at work? It's basically a nightmare in paperwork. For those of us who work in investments, we know the outlook for long-term investment returns is not as rosy as it has been. We know that savings rates are too low. Countless experts around the world talk about savings ratios or saving rates of 10 to 15%. and yet auto-enrollment is at 8%, and I know it's going higher. And what's happened, and it's been slow and subtle, but financial responsibility has been shifted onto us as individuals. And when we were in a defined benefit pension scheme, we were lucky. We had an actuary, we had an investment consultant, we had asset managers who could help us out. Well, we have that same problem now as individuals. But this is the interesting thing. World Economic Forum was saying that actually low levels of financial literacy is a big issue. And you can see on the right, they're saying that in the 21st century, it is a key foundational skill. And yet in the UK, it was only put on the secondary school syllabus in 2014, and only 45% of schools in the UK deliver financial education. And as you'll see in a minute, we should be delivering it a lot earlier. So I was debating on whether to test you to see how financially literate you were. And I thought that that would be a little bit unfair to put you on the spot. So the chart on your left is what's called the Big Three. So this was developed by Professor Anna Maria Lusardi. She's based in George Washington University, and since 2011 she's been using these Big Three questions around the world to test financial literacy. So suppose you had £100 or €100 in the savings account. After 5 years, how much do you think you would have in the account if you left the money to grow? So more than 102, exactly 102, less than 102, don't know, refuse to answer. Now, unfortunately, this version is highlighted what the answer is. Now, the same again for inflation, and then the same again for diversification. The reality is that levels of financial literacy in the UK and around the world are really, really low. So surprisingly few people are able to answer these three basic questions. Now, the question on the right is what's called risk literacy. So this is about expected return and risk and return. For those of you who are my colleagues from the pensions industry, I recommend trying this out on your trustee board to see if they can answer these two questions, and I'll share them afterwards. But as you'll see in a moment, that the scores on these risk literacy questions are much, much lower. So this is a map of what that financial and risk literacy looks like across Europe. Now you go, okay, well that doesn't look too bad, 56%. But this is basic financial literacy. That's the ability to answer those three questions. So only 56% of adults in the UK can correctly answer those three questions. And you can see that actually for risk literacy it's 12%. And actually you see that risk literacy across Europe is super, super low. And then when we look at it by age, so here this is under 35, 35 to 49, and over 50, actually basic financial literacy increases with age. That kind of makes sense. But you see risk literacy just basically doesn't really change. Now that's a big issue if, as I've outlined earlier, we've just shifted all this financial responsibility onto individuals, and a big part of their financial outcome is taking investment risk. And so it's no wonder, this is a quote from a 17-year-old boy who said, "We have been neglected. Nobody told us about the need to save and invest." And then on the right, 3 years ago, a survey done by Metro saying the top 30 skills we wish we'd learned at school. So number one, how to budget. 2, the importance of insurance. How loans work. How to wire a plug. Yeah, I can see that that's important. How to plug in a plug and turn on the socket. And how to take out a pension. So somewhere in our system of teaching STEM and all the rest, we've forgotten some basic life skills. Now, a few years ago, back in 2013, Cambridge University did a study for the Money Advice Service, and it turns out our money habits, and that's the operative word, are formed by the age of 7. And on the right is a checklist for countries around the world to think about what they need to do to address that sort of savings shortfall that I talked about. So review national retirement age, make saving easy, but look at that, support financial literacy efforts, starting in schools and targeting vulnerable groups. And yet we're not doing that. As I've just shared with you, that's not what we're doing in the UK, and the reality is that's not what we're doing around the world. So that's kind of what inspired me to write Save Your Acorns, and so this was my first tranche of books. That's what 5,000 copies of Save Your Acorns looks like. And actually 2 years on, it's been fantastic. So I've now sold / given away about 6,500 copies. It's been pretty well reviewed on Amazon. I did get one star, so thank you to whoever went on and gave me that 1 star. It's always good. There's been lots of social media. I had a bit of a campaign on Mumsnet. I had a bit of a campaign on Grandsnet. I didn't even know Grandsnet existed. But yeah, lots and lots of kids and families in the UK and around the world have enjoyed this book. And the reason I wrote this book, actually, let me, for those of you who haven't read the book, I'll just indulge you for 3 minutes. You may recognize the narrator of this story.
Save Your Acorns by Robert Gardner. On a warm autumn day, Oliver and Amelia were arguing. "They're my acorns," shouted Amelia. "I helped collect them, so I should get to eat half of them," said Oliver. "Children," said their wise old grandpa, "neither of you should be eating all those acorns." "Neither of us?" Amelia cried. "Why not?" asked Oliver. "Let me read you a story about the bears and the monkeys," Grandpa said. "One summer, many years ago, the monkeys had the best banana harvest in years. The monkeys had the time of their lives. They all ate dozens of bananas. They had banana parties. They even wasted the bananas by throwing them at each other. But one day, the weather changed. No rain fell, and the bananas dried up into nothing. All the banana parties stopped. All the banana throwing stopped. Worst of all, eating bananas stopped. The monkeys grew extremely hungry. Every day was worse than the one before it. Their tummies rumbled with hunger. Luckily for the monkeys, their good friends the bears came to their rescue. Rather than eating all their berries, the wise bears had saved some of their berries for the winter. Every day, they would eat enough to be full and put the rest of their berries aside. When the bears woke up from their winter sleep and saw how hungry the monkeys had grown, they knew they had to help. They got together and agreed to share their saved berries with the monkeys. From that year on, the monkeys knew not to waste their bananas by playing games and having parties. Now, the monkeys would save 2 out of every 10 bananas for when the weather changed. They still had enough bananas to eat and feel full. "Wow, those monkeys sure were silly," said Oliver. "I never want to run out of food and be hungry like the monkeys," said Amelia. Grandpa smiled. "That's why, every time we find 10 acorns, the first thing we do is save 2 of them, just in case. That way, when we aren't so lucky, we'll always have extra acorns." "I haven't told you the best part," said Grandpa. "When you save your acorns, they don't just sit there and wait for you. They grow into trees, and the trees give you more and more acorns. The longer you wait, the more acorns you have," Grandpa said. "I can't wait to save all our acorns," said Oliver. "Maybe one day we'll even have enough acorns to help our friends, just like the bears did," exclaimed Amelia. The end.
So the book Save Your Acorns is written for 4 to 6-year-olds. So exactly as I said earlier, our money-saving habits are formed by the age of 7, and there's just a lack of material or books out there to teach this stuff. So this rather confusing-looking chart from the Money Advice Service is actually an excellent piece of work. But basically, the Money Advice Service went out and looked at all financial education provision in the UK. It's called the What Works program, and they were trying to look at the availability, what age group, was it addressing ability or mindset or connection or behavior. But there are a couple of key learnings from this research. One, we're not doing it young enough. So most of our financial education is focused at 16 to 17-year-olds, and we need to be doing it younger. The second thing is the importance of parents. It turns out that when we do surveys of financial education, most of us say that we've learnt it from our parents. So the role of parents is absolutely crucial. And then thirdly, the importance of sort of gamification, or what's called experiential learning. And hopefully you'll start to understand why I decided to make a game. But just briefly, a bit of an update on Red Start. We turned our collateral from teaching people how to budget, save, and invest into a game, and we have this fantastic game called Money Matters, where we teach a number of skills, but 3 skills that really stand out are how to earn it, and this is a bunch of kids just next door, and this is on the station called Fighting Fit, and they're literally doing star jumps and burpees to earn money, learning that there are opportunities to earn money everywhere. You just have to find it. Keep it. There's a bank in the game, but my favorite part of the game is Rich Ricky. And in Rich Ricky, we offer the kids to double their money by the end of the game. And you'd be amazed at how many kids fall for Rich Ricky. Now, Rich Ricky is a scam, so yes, we're deliberately scamming young children. But it turns out that the level of financial scamming is on the rise. And what we're trying to do is give people that emotional intelligence or awareness of what a scam looks and feels like. And you start to have a conversation and go, but did you know who Rich Ricky was? Could you trust him? Basic questions that we should be thinking about when someone's trying to scam us. But my favorite bit is how to grow it. As Einstein allegedly said, compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. And sadly, that expression is so true and is explained. It accounts for why there's such a big difference in wealth across all the different income groups in the UK. So regardless of income group, we end up with quite a big wealth gap. Now, maths and compound interest is quite an abstract subject, and so we've used sort of Montessori techniques using building blocks to teach this idea of compound interest. And here's a picture of the kids playing Built to Last, where they get to learn just how compound interest can help them win the game. So I thought, well, what if learning about money and how it works was fun? We know from the MAS, the Money Advice Survey, that gamification is important. We know the role of parents, and I thought, well, how do I build on Save Your Acorns? Writing another book is in the wings, but I thought, well, what about Silly Monkeys? So unfortunately, my girls couldn't be here, so this is my youngest daughter, Camilla. But as you'll see in a moment, the idea was to make a card game that can be played with young children, where the idea is to save your acorns, eat your acorns, share and collect them. And the winner of the game is the player who saves the most acorns. You can pick your favorite character, Oliver and Amelia, and I've created 2 new characters. But there are a couple of wild cards in there to make the game a little bit more fruity, a little bit more spicy. So we've got Grandpa Squirrel, who helps you out. You've got the bears that also helps you out, but you really, really don't want to get Silly Monkey. If you get Silly Monkey, you're probably going to lose the game. Or if you get Silly Monkey, tip, play him early, and get rid of him. There will be a copy for you if you're prepared to make a small donation. So just a quick plug for our charity Red Start. Over the last 12 months, we've made enormous progress. So the game I just showed you, Money Matters, is awesome. And when we go in and deliver it, we get amazing feedback. But when we speak to teachers, they go, this is great, but coming into London, taking a day out from the normal school syllabus is really hard. Can you design something that we can fit into a 40-minute class? So the team at Red Start deconstructed all the lessons from Money Matters and have created Money Matters Bite Size. So this can be delivered by any primary school teacher in 40 minutes, is completely integrated with Key Stage 2. And so exactly that. The idea is the teacher can download it and play it. And this is free on our website right now to use. So you can see some of our bite-sized Money Matters. If you're interested, we'd love it if you recommended it to a school that you may know, either your children or grandchildren, or any school that you might be involved with. The other thing that we've done is that, one of the challenges is that a lot of the financial education that we've delivered tends to be very London-centric, or tends to be centred around where financial services are, so Bristol and Edinburgh. And of course, there's a whole country, and our goal is to reach 1 million young people across the UK. So we've developed an ambassador programme. We've got some ambassadors in Wiltshire. I'm hoping to recruit someone for Oxford shortly. But if you're interested in becoming an ambassador, speak to me or speak to Keir or speak to Tom Pilcher over there. We'd love to have you involved. So finally, this will be on sale on Amazon. I've had a few manufacturing issues. So if you could make a donation for £5 to Red Start, I'd love you to take 2 packs. And finally, a society grows great when squirrels plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. I really think that the issue of financial education, the issue that we don't teach it, is something that we're going to live to regret. Hopefully I've shared why I'm so passionate about all of this stuff. Thank you for coming and enjoy Silly Monkeys. Thank you.